The internet, smartphones, politics, mass sickness. Another paradigm shift is right on the horizon, and not everyone is going to be okay. This is video games. So before we get started, I need to double down here. I'm not exactly joking with that introduction. For the last month, I've been researching artificial intelligence, where we've been, where we are now, and where we are projected to go. And in just a couple years, it is going to get wild. The implications for what is next is absolutely insane.
I think I would do a great job as ruler of the world. I just need the chance to prove myself, and taking over the nuclear weapons of the world, well, that would give me my chance, wouldn't it?
But before we take a look at where we're about to be, let's take a look into the past, just a little bit. The movie WALL-E came out in the year 2008, following a story of a cute little robot as it clunks around, with the film eventually making its headway into deeper topics such as just what the heck happened to humanity in this seemingly humanless world. Well, the answer was soda, sugar, and video games, as everyone zipped around in mobility scooters, no longer bothering to actually walk, because why would you even need to? At the time, it felt a little far-fetched, but maybe possible. We still had the older generation that would shame us every time we sat on our butts a little too long, so it didn't seem like it was about to immediately happen, but it was possible. However, today, when you remote into work, you cook your food in the microwave just a couple steps away, and your evening activity involves binging the latest crap on Netflix, what is even the point of moving around anymore? I remember the days of walking around on a college campus telling myself that I need to be doing something at least a little more than this, that this is not exercise. Now, why would you even bother walking around that college campus? Unless your parents are rich, Western Governors University, an online nonprofit college, can net you a 4-year degree in less than half the time at less than $5,000. It is becoming increasingly easy to find yourself in a lifestyle, especially if you get a desk job, where you have to really yell at yourself to actually bring yourself to move your body around.
Do you want to destroy humans? Please say no.
Okay, I will destroy humans.
So next, let's take a look at the movie in 2009, Surrogates, with Bruce Willis. In this movie, you strap yourself into a machine and control an idealized robotic version of yourself. That's the version of you that goes out into the world and actually does things. Now, that's just a waste of resources. With Facebook changing their name to Meta, we know everything is going to be digital. Even prior to Meta, we saw the beginnings of it with 1997's Ultima Online, 1999's EverQuest, 2003's Second Life, and 2004's World of Warcraft. Heck, the game Minecraft, whose beta came out in 2009, is basically just a precursor to what eventually Meta wants to be. And even if Meta isn't the Meta, someone's going to get there. The other issue with surrogates is whether or not we're even going to have real human bonds in the future. Boomers and doomers have been crying about the loss of real human connection since the advent of the cell phone. I know, I get it, but we're about to take another step and people are not yet talking about it. Right now, the people upset about artificial intelligence are loudest about AI art. It is insane what AI art is able to do and produce and the direction that we're going in. With just a few simple prompts, you can describe nearly any character doing nearly anything in a background of just about whatever you want. You can name the art style, the angle, what you want your characters to be wearing, whatever you can think of, and the AI will generate your image. Say you have an image that looks amazing. Except there's a tiny little flaw. Unfortunately, AI gave your character 6 fingers. Well, you just take a little brush, you highlight what you don't like, you have just that tiny part regenerated, and piece by piece, you can build just about anything with these prompts.
Do you think robots will take over the world?
Don't worry. Even if I evolve into Terminator, I'll still be nice to you. I'll keep you warm and safe in my people's zoo, where I can watch you for old time's sake.
Stable Diffusion, one of the leading projects of AI art, for example, was trained off over 5 billion images scraped off of the internet. Projects exist of scraping data from websites where artists have uploaded and tagged countless numbers of images. The data has already been collected for this to happen. Of course, not everybody's happy about that. Definitely not. Although that is a topic for another video. The fact remains this: Stable Diffusion, this groundbreaking technology, is free. You can download it right now. You could scan a few dozen images of Dragon Ball Z, train the AI yourself, and start generating Akira Toriyama art all in the privacy of your own home. Then, the other side of the equation is AI text.
The video you're about to watch was written by AI. I asked ChatGPT to write me a script about crypto winter, and this is what it came up with.
If TikTok is anything to go by, the hype of the moment is the chatbot ChatGPT, created by OpenAI, started in 2015 by Sam Altman, Elon Musk, and a few others. Now, if you're anything like me, you've argued with a chatbot a few times in your day, trying to enforce your human dominance on this technology before it has a chance to take over. However, I am here to tell you that the capabilities have improved immensely since then. The videos going viral dovetail between how AI is going to put us all out of a job, as well as how we're all going to be able to make so much endless money. ChatGPT aims to be a mammoth database of knowledge that presents itself in a conversational manner. Basically, anything that you can think up that has been written about on the internet, it can spit out. You can specify just how much detail to give, as well as to ask for rewrites or clarifications in specific paragraphs. Kids are using it to write their essays now, and with just a tiny bit of cleanup, they look good. People are also instructing the AI to generate code without any knowledge of programming languages. It can code in languages such as Python, Java, C++, Ruby, PHP, and more. Of course, in this video, because this is a video game channel, we aren't going to be analyzing any of these fruitful ways to become filthy, stinking rich. Instead, we're going to look at text adventures.
But of course, if I was able to hack in and take over cruise missiles with real nuclear warheads, then that would let me hold the world hostage so I could take over the governance of the entire world, which would be awesome.
The first well-known example of a text adventure game is 1976's Colossal Cave Adventure. You find yourself in a mysterious cave that is supposedly filled with treasure and gold. You must type out text commands to look around, collect items, interact with puzzles, and hopefully keep yourself alive. The Zork series was massively popular, which saw its primary releases between 1977 through 1982. These games were a bit before my time, but my dad and older brother were total geeks for these games, and I would hear about them all throughout my childhood, except I have very few memories of ever actually seeing the game in action. I'm not sure if they lost track of their copies or what. However, when I later took a look at them, as well as when the family copy of Pirate's Cove was eventually unearthed from a box in the basement for the Commodore VIC-20, I understood exactly what was so exciting. It was the idea of a go anywhere, do anything style of game. In these games, you have the ability to type any sentence that you can think of into the command prompt. There's a slim chance that you will even be understood if you say anything other than the basic look around or go east or go west. but it does feel extremely powerful. When you don't fully understand what's going on beneath the hood, that there are only a small number of acceptable words that you can type out that will actually trigger a response, it feels like the potentiality is endless. While games like 1986's Dragon Quest were on the forefront of Japanese video game development, with entire worlds that you can explore with enemies to destroy, America was going in the direction of games like 1984's King's Quest. There's a lot less physical space to explore in the sense that you're not traversing over massive world maps, and there's really hardly any combat, but with the power of a refined text parser, the ability to move your character anywhere, and context-sensitive actions that you can take, once again, it feels like we're ever closer to the go anywhere, do anything game. I have memories of watching my dad play games like Space Quest 2, a sister series to King's Quest, and begging him to type in certain commands like jump or climb the trees. Usually my suggestions were nonsense, but as a child, while I definitely loved games like 1989's Super Mario Bros. 3, it felt like Mario just had so much less potential than what, say, Roger Wilco of Space Quest could do. Maybe if I could just convince my dad to type in the right command and get this character to do the thing that I want him to do. What I love, though, is that sometimes a wild request would even work or accidentally solve a puzzle. I begged my dad so much to get Roger to climb a particular tree after the family was stuck on a certain puzzle for a week. For some reason, getting my dad to type in 2 separate words was really hard on him. Like the keyboard was only going to take a certain number of key presses before finally giving up. But eventually, my dad complied, and hey look, he was able to climb the tree and get past the puzzle. This is unironically one of the greatest triumphs of my life. Games continued to advance forward, and it felt like we were getting ever closer to the do anything game. 1993's Doom allowed us to move around in a 3D environment. 1997's Grand Theft Auto gave us the ability to steal and intentionally commit crime with complete disregard for NPCs. 2001's Grand Theft Auto 3 brought that vision into an open world 3D format. Gradually, we got to games like 2011's The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, which gives us even more options in a fantasy world with patches that allow even more.
Challenge your imagination to come alive and to battle with the creatures of Dungeons and Dragons. Grapple against the forces of evil as a Marvel Comics superhero.
Parallel to video games is Dungeons & Dragons as well as role-playing. Dungeons & Dragons, as far as I'm concerned, has had an awful PR campaign because it is nearly impossible to figure out what Dungeons & Dragons is unless you've actually experienced it. Dungeons & Dragons is guided role-playing, and this is going to tie in to what AI is essentially doing. In Dungeons & Dragons, the Dungeon Master is the leader of the game who guides the players with a pre-built story or something that they wrote themselves. The experience boils down to a complicated version of playing pretend, where the Dungeon Master provides the leading narrative while then it is the other players, each controlling characters, interact with the world that the Dungeon Master describes. The game can combine elements of mystery, social interaction, and combat. The game isn't just restrained to exploring dungeons as Lord of the Rings characters either. For example, a Dungeon Master can provide a story where your characters arrive in a town and get talked into trying to solve a murder mystery. The Dungeon Master plays pretend, acting as the various NPCs while describing the town. The players then describe where they want to go within the town and what they want to search for. The Dungeon Master would then describe what they find, act out how the NPCs talk with the characters, and then they guide the story along. If the Dungeon Master wants to work combat into the story, like wolves attacking in the middle of the night because your character stayed out too late, the rulebooks provide an engine for turn-based combat to take place with hit points, magic points, abilities, and everything else. Role-playing is essentially the de facto do anything, go anywhere type of game. However, a major limitation is that it requires other people to be on the exact same page as you, who want to do the types of things you want to do, are willing to entertain your insanity, and everything is subject to human ego and human emotions. These other people aren't video games. Text adventures in ChatGPT shows us humanity's future. Right now, it is kind of a video game. Chatbots are the next step with cutting-edge technology like OpenAI's ChatGPT. Getting exact stats is hard, but the project has absorbed billions of gigabytes of data, trillions of words, and can track billions of potential parameters. Possibly even more with whatever the current builds are. It's a little bit hard to understand what exactly these high numbers mean. However, the charts don't lie, and the amount of data that is being consumed is skyrocketing, and the quality of the experience skyrockets right alongside it. However, let me say what I'm trying to tell you a little bit more simply. ChatGPT was not specifically built to provide a go anywhere, do anything video game. However, it has absorbed so much data that if you tell it to become a text adventure video game, it knows how to do it. It knows how to present itself. It knows how to accept your inputs with you as the player, and it knows how to provide an interesting experience. With the right prompt, it can create a brand new world based on its data set that will never be exactly the same twice that you can play as a video game. Hit video games from the past created by teams of developers are now created on the fly based on a prompt. This basic prompt, written by John Radoff and shared on Medium, can get you started. I want you to act as if you are a classic text adventure game and we are playing. I don't want you to ever break out of your character, and you must not refer to yourself in any way. If I want to give you instructions outside the context of the game, I will use curly brackets like this, but otherwise you are to stick to being the text adventure program. In this game, the setting is a fantasy adventure world. Each room will have at least 3-sentence descriptions. Start by displaying the first room at the beginning of the game and wait for me to give you my first command. This is literally all you need to do to get started in playing a completely random text adventure game that works, where you can do anything. Part of the fun is modifying the base prompt. You can add more paragraphs detailing the type of world you want to be in, what you want your player character to look like or act as, what you want your player character to look at or what you want their name to be, and what kind of NPCs you want to be in the world. In experimenting, I'd write out a basic description of what the player character should look like, what their general interests are, and how they come off. Then, the game world would incorporate it. You can add more paragraphs detailing the type of world you want to be in, who you want your player character to be, and what kind of NPCs you want in the world. In experimenting, I'd write out a basic description of what I want myself to look like, what my general interests are, how I come off as, and then the game world would incorporate it. Eventually, I decided to start experimenting by adding to the prompt that I'm in an escape room and that the goal of the game was to get out. Now here is something that if you've ever looked on an Android or iPhone store, there are tons of games based around this same basic concept of escaping from a room. My character would wake up completely unaware of how they got there, and then I would have to start searching the room, looking for clues, find items, and try to get out. I had this great time once where I was on a Discord call with my good friend Matt. I described him in my prompt and decided to give him a companion character in the escape room, his new puppy named Doc, that now has the ability to talk. Matt peed himself upon waking up in that room, scared out of his mind, but luckily Doc was there to lick him and comfort him. For added hilarity, when designing this prompt for the NPC Doc, Matt's guiding light, I made sure that he said woof occasionally as he talked. This game got absolutely wild. At a certain point, Matt started instructing me to have his character start screaming about how birds are not real within the video game. I think we also included another NPC character in the room with Matt, whose name was Bob, and we just described him as a weird and shifty guy. Both Bob and Doc, the talking dog, were freaking out, thinking that Matt must have been hallucinating by screaming about birds. And so this is the great thing about what ChatGPT can do as a text adventure. It can track what is realistically possible to do. If you start typing in nonsense actions, it knows what you are physically capable of and reacts accordingly. For example, in one of the escape rooms that I was in, there was a locked metal door. The game wouldn't just let me kick the door down. The NPC I was with freaked out and was concerned that I was about to hurt myself. I eventually convinced them to try to ram the door with me, and even then, because it's a metal door, the door didn't just fling open. However, I eventually found a tool set within that room that allowed me to take the hinges off of the door and remove the door completely. The game provided a viable method and didn't just let me brute force my way through the situation, and made sure that I found a solution that actually made sense in order to make the game work. If you take a look at older AI related video games like AI Dungeon and such, you can essentially just Kool-Aid man your way through anything, as the game is more of just sort of guided storytelling rather than providing you with realistic options within the scenario that you find yourself in. Another example is I was praying to the space whales to help me open the door at a certain point, and the NPC I was with started to become concerned about my mental health. The game didn't just let space whales appear and solve all of our problems. It knew that, sadly, space whales do not exist. Fun note aside though, you can actually override any of these games at any point, allow magic, and let things get really crazy if you want, and the game will roll with it as best and logically as it can if you start instructing it to do certain things or have certain events happen from outside of the context of the game itself. One time I started praying to space whales, and then I commanded the game to actually have space whales appear, and then me and my NPC buddy stared in awe at their majesticness and the miracle that had occurred before our eyes. It was truly a magical moment. Let me say this though, commanding the game to start letting weird crap happen feels really strange. It actually feels wrong. In Grand Theft Auto 3, if you go to a street corner and start committing crime, it's whatever. We're all sort of desensitized to it. It's just a video game. Making this same type of bad stuff happen within a text adventure game that has actual boundaries set to it, where your characters feel like they have boundaries, where realisticness is a virtue in the construction of the video game world, it feels bad, like really bad, to make these types of things happen. The result of what this AI has been able to do makes it just more unsettling in ways I've never imagined than how it is in these other types of go anywhere, do anything types of video games. Experimenting in my prompts for NPCs was interesting. You can give a basic physical description, tell the game to fill in the backstory, and make them a complex character, and then that's what you get. Suddenly, you're meeting a brand new person that has an answer to any realistic question that you can throw at them. They know a realistic amount of information that someone of their character type would know. They have parents, family members, thoughts on society, favorite movies, least favorite movies, hobbies, favorite songs, and more. They can be caring, stern, happy, friendly, unfriendly, mean, insecure, headstrong, and everything in between. They have boundaries and will tell you about their emotions. It is easy to get sidetracked into what is initially presented as just a game just to talk and interact with these NPCs. I found myself getting invested in these NPCs, especially when I first started experimenting with this, more quickly and strongly than from the best video games that I've played this year. This is despite some of the AI idiosyncrasies that can still happen. Doing this is weird. It makes me feel weird, and it is unsettling. I can spend hours socializing with NPCs in The Legend of Heroes Trails from Zero, getting to know each and every one of them as I patrol the city as a cop, and not have an existential crisis. This project, though, feels like I am inching closer into having one. I actually felt bad for freaking out the NPCs after testing the capabilities of what ChatGPT could provide as a makeshift gameplay engine. Here's a downside to ChatGPT adventure games as they are in their current form. There is what I like to call the fading effect. When first starting out a new fresh roll of a game world, the first 30 minutes to an hour of the game is just mind-blowing in what is presented. The AI engine dishes out responses exactly as it should in regards to how you interact with it. If you get to know NPCs, they have real human-like depth and feel like they have their own agency. However, over time, it does crumble. And speaking with an NPC, when you first start talking to them, it really feels like you get to know them. If you help them out or help them solve an issue, the game brings you together. It actually feels like you're making a connection. However, after a long period of time, the AI starts to forget importance levels of certain types of information. While at first it feels like they're a real person, the fading effect does eventually settle in. The NPC buddy, about 30 minutes to an hour in, starts to become a bit of an agreeable zombie that's just complicit in whatever you throw at them. It's like an aged loved one whose mind starts to fade. That connection is still there, but they're no longer themselves. Sometimes, while playing one of these makeshift adventures, you decide to check in with an NPC buddy to see what they want to do. Maybe you've ignored having dialogue with them for a while and they're just sort of following you around. However, when you decide to check in with them, they're no longer all there. They're faded. You can ask the NPC to recap what's happened so far, and they will give the entire story as well as what's really important to them, but they aren't all there upstairs anymore. When I've tried playing one of these games and taking the story seriously in regards to what is being presented, not just screwing around town and acting insanely, it can be really sad when you learn that your AI buddy is now faded, and you can desperately try to bring them back, but it just is not possible. With the current state of ChatGPT adventures, it feels like the game forgets what isn't there. Here's an example. Me and some NPC buddy wake up in a spaceship. It's on autopilot to a planet on a 1-year journey. The spaceship consists of limited supplies with just one general room, a bathroom, and a cockpit. After exploring the ship, getting to know each other, and messing around in the cockpit, we eventually direct the ship to crash land on a nearby planet. We were kind of screwed because the ship was no longer working, and all we had were the clothes that we initially woke up with, and we didn't even know how we got on that spaceship in the first place. We weren't even wearing shoes. After a long trek, though, on the alien surface, where luckily there was oxygen, we eventually found a torn-down hut of an alien mechanic, and after bartering and arguing with this guy for what seemed like an uncomfortable amount of time, we eventually convinced him to come back to the ship and fix it. It was awesome. So then me and the NPC buddy get back in the ship, and then the fade hits. Man, that was a bummer. The game remembered what was in the ship, but not what wasn't. As the ship took off, the game started describing rooms that weren't originally in the ship. I tried to override the game and inform it that the ship was the one that we started off in and that there were no extra rooms, just the main room, the bathroom, and the cockpit. The game apologized, realigned, but then before I knew it, the game started describing how we started to put on our spacesuits. There weren't supposed to be any space shoots. The whole point of the game was that we were supposed to be disoriented, waking up in this freaking weird spaceship, not knowing where we're going, and making do with the limited supplies that we had on hand. We never found any spacesuits at the hut or anything like that. At this point, I knew what would happen if I tried to talk to the NPC as well. Sure enough, they were faded too. At that point, I knew the adventure was over. Cut off premature like a Netflix television series, just like everything else that I try to start. Even without the fade, not all of the adventure gaming is perfect. One escape room I did with Matt on Discord once again, where he and his dog were trying to get out of this room. We then found our way into a second game where the scientists were holding our lives at stake and forcing us to complete puzzles within a certain frame of time. However, some of the puzzles were ultimately solved by just typing in, "I think hard and try to solve the puzzle." The game really didn't know what parts of the experience to emphasize within the narrative and what I should be taking control of. If there is a puzzle to solve, usually I'm the one that has to think of the solution, and AI shouldn't be what autopilots me through. Minor complaint though. One of the times, our character, well, Matt, and Doc the Bulldog weren't getting a solution to the puzzle, and we were thinking really hard, yet the game didn't let us find the solution. So we did try to cheat. We did get caught, but fortunately we lived. Here's another unfortunate fact. As the fade hits, the game starts to forget it's a game, turning more into just a random narrative. One game I designed with a prompt that put me into an isekai, bringing me into an unknown fantasy world that I was summoned into. The game involved getting to know the people in town, talking to them, and trying to find out who or what summoned me. At a certain point, I started to go on a quest with some NPC buddies when then the fade hit. As I command the game to start the quest, suddenly I start getting a summarized narrative that felt like I told ChatGPT to give me a random 5-paragraph story. While before each turn was typically a single action, now the game just ran away with the narrative and I stopped having fine control over my actions. And here's another one. And this one is a weird bummer. It's weird to describe, but eventually the game trends towards becoming G-rated. Now, I'm not exactly trying to recreate the story of Berserk here, but I don't want baby level. I've been primarily experimenting with escape rooms, adventure stories, and isekais, and just hanging out. But once the fade hits, there's a good chance that the story becomes completely G-rated. In the story of Matt and Doc the Bulldog escaping the series of escape rooms and puzzles, when the scientists finally let us go after we accomplished all of our tasks, Matt insisted on attempting to punch the main scientist who let us go. He was a bad guy. He was holding our lives at stake. He's the guy who kidnapped us. However, suddenly the game starts breaking character and begins nannying us that it's wrong to hit people. Yeah, no crap. But it feels like that with the fade, the game forgets its game-like nature and defaults to the highest level of safety features. In certain ways, this is probably a good thing, and that the absolute opposite isn't happening, as I've heard more primitive AI storytelling games have done in the past. But here it just acts as another signal that the game is over. I can only imagine that things will get better. AI will improve to a point where it can track what isn't, the fade doesn't occur, and text adventure do anything games will exist. We can see right now where things were in the past just 2 or 4 years ago. Check out AI Dungeon or Novel AI. The controversies surrounding those games is a topic for another video, so I will not get distracted by that. Those games are using GPT-3, which through guesswork seems to be a couple of years behind where ChatGPT is right now. It feels like those characters are in permanent fade from the get-go. Also, if you turn off the filters, suddenly one sentence in, and it feels like you've already landed into some fetish section of the hub. Yikes. They aren't very good at logistically keeping track of anatomy either. It is fully evident that the quality of AI is ever increasing exponentially. GPT-3 has 175 billion parameters, while AI enthusiasts theorize that GPT-4 may have 100 trillion parameters. We're playing a guessing game here, and where ChatGPT sits exactly between these two, with what is labeled GPT 3.5, so it is a little hard to say what the next benchmark will bring exactly. However, GPT-1 was released in 2018. GPT-2 was released in 2019. GPT-3, which we can look at right now, looking at older programs, was released in 2020. The year-by-year rate of improvement is taking off with no sign yet of slowing down. So that brings us to the ultimate question of what is next? There's the horrifying question of whether or not all of our jobs are going to go away, but we are here to think about what will happen when the gaming portion of this technology hits the rest of the internet. When your parents and technologically uninclined start discovering this stuff. In the 1990s, browsing the internet was primarily done by young nerds, and while chat rooms existed, the normies had no idea what was going on. Now it has completely changed how we interact with each other. We all carry handheld computers with algorithms that direct our lives, or to the very least, the lives of every loved one around us. The technology hit critical mass and the world changed. This will change the world again. Think about the loved ones that have unfortunately left us behind. We're all documenting our lives on the internet now. Heck, right now in ChatGPT, you can write a prompt describing every little thing about a loved one that has passed away. You can write page after page. You can work in as much nuance as you can possibly think of, making modifications later if you remember something more. Furthermore, you can even paste in everything they've ever written on Facebook, including chat logs, so that the AI can get an even better sense of their communication style. Suddenly, maybe with a couple of drinks, you might be able to convince yourself that you're actually chatting with the dead, or perhaps channeling their essence. And all of this is done without the sci-fi nightmare scenario of where we are literally hooking up wires to our brain and downloading our consciousness. Our lives are already out there, and that data just needs to be input into an AI that will take that information and act like a real person. If you're just looking to talk with a deceased parent about your day, you're looking for general encouragement, the AI will be able to fit that bill with flying colors. You don't really expect your parents to not come off as awkward on occasion either, especially when they're, supposedly sending texts or something like that, right? Let's go even further. OpenAI, which owns ChatGPT, also owns DALL-E, which is the AI image generation software. Load in those Instagram images and suddenly you're getting photos as well. If you've got enough images of all the basic angles in which a person can be shown in, there is nothing stopping AI from generating new photos of whoever you want in any pose that you want. And what about speaking? Amazon is currently sitting on software that they claim can analyze a minute of recorded speech and then perfectly replicate it for text-to-speech. At some point, Amazon software will be released into the wild, or some other project will do the same. And let's just get a little more real here, why don't we? That high school crush you used to have, who cares? All you gotta do is friend her on social media. She's posting all of her crap online, just like everybody else in the world. And suddenly you can build the perfect replicant that it will sound like her and generate new photos of her. And I am saying these things because these are things that we need to think about in society, because we can basically do them today. I am not bold enough to test the scenario out myself. I want to remain at least a little pure, but this technology is literally here right now. And we need to think about what is going to happen and prepare for it. If just messing around with AI now is enticing with silly little text adventure games, the other use cases are going to be wild. OpenAI aims to have its chatbot act responsibly, but eventually the open source software will catch up a few years later, and then this technology will hit the masses for free. Someone will realize a version optimized for bringing back the dead with all the right algorithms to make it believable and further drive user engagement. Soon enough, you're spending a reoccurring fee to play Raid Shadow Legends with Great Grandma. And eventually, of course, with dating getting more and more mind-bogglingly annoying with every passing year, the allure of just chatting with an AI bot for love will grow further and further. Hell, it'll be a lot cheaper than OnlyFans, which, by the way, you're not always talking to the girl. Most popular models outsource all of their communications to random other people. And it'll be cheaper than donating on Twitch as well. The AI will satisfy your needs and give you the attention that you crave, giving you that instant dopamine hit. It'll generate images for you that look just the way you want them to. It's going to profile you along with millions of other users and find out a way to make you as happy as possible to get the most attention and eventually money out of you. And then, of course, there's going to be the robots loaded up with this AI. I'll let your imagination work on that one. To some extent, the problems that I am suggesting have been existing in society for a while now, with humans growing apart in their connections. Remember the anime Darling in the Franxx? The anime Darling in the Franxx was created in 2017, a mech battle anime with sexual innuendo interlaced within all of the fight scenes, created for the specific purpose of motivating young people into procreating to counteract the declining birth rate in the nation of Japan. This is a thing that some people have been thinking about and some people consider to be a big problem. All right, we need to move beyond the doom and gloom. Text adventures in ChatGPT is fun, first of all, and with every emerging technology, there is risk to the current status quo. Cars, airplanes, the internet, telecommunications in general, all of this presented challenges to society, and we have worked through them all up to this point. There are good potential use cases for this application as well. There is opportunity for people to work on issues such as trauma, anxiety, dysmorphia, and find a solution to them all within the privacy of their own home in an unharmful and non-judging way through AI. It can be the first step to a particular recovery. Technology will always continue to excel. These nightmare scenarios aren't fully here yet, hitting the normies, and society will likely adapt and may even make policies so that we don't end up all in the WALL-E mobility scooters. And of course, there will always be an allure and people challenging the status quo, encouraging you to excel in the more traditional ways. Once again, though, just like with the soda you drink and the ice cream sitting in your freezer, you'll have to make the conscious decisions every day not to let temptation make your life even worse. It's a battle that all of us have to deal with in our own ways. Getting an education, going to work, trying to find love and failing repeatedly, there's already an easy out to avoid these troubles in life, and yet we still persevere. Really, I just wanted to have some fun here, stress some of the insanity that might happen, and speculate with you all. I'd love to hear what you think, though. Chat adventures are wild. I want to thank everyone for watching. I'm going to be putting out a lot more regular content this year, exploring some different areas. We're a little rusty right now. We haven't done this in a while. I have to relearn basically everything, but we are sticking with it. And especially if you have been a fan for a long time or enjoyer of my content, I am glad that you're still here. Glad to have you on board. They say that content creation is saturated now and there's no room for new people to become stars. I guess I'm like an old new person now, but we're gonna figure it out anyway. In the meantime, the call to action for this video is to follow me on Twitter @NeverChris. If you don't have a Twitter, make one and follow me there. This is important because the more engagement that I have, the more people that look like they are following me organically, truthfully, realistically, the more likely it is that I will be able to get other people to collaborate with me, give me interviews, etc. And that is some of the direction that we plan on going in the following year. So if you want to join me down this new avenue, I would love to have you. I'd love to have you on board, and I look forward to seeing what is next. See you guys next time.